Hey, I'm back. I apologize for that mess up. I was having, at first this microphone wasn't connected, and unfortunately I'm not blessed with a very resonant, smooth voice, and people tell me it's much better with the microphone, and it wasn't working, so I tried to go live again, but then my laptop had a little hissy fit, so I had to restart. So I'm sure you guys understand. You've probably been there, done that. So thank you for your patience, and I'm very sorry for those who were waiting and were already on with me before. So today we are going to have our Q&A part 2, which is all about food. So the last Q&A that we had with Kirsty was all about our stools and our gut health and lots of those beautifully intricate health questions that she can just shine in. We are now going to delve into the food questions that came through, and there are some great questions in here. Also, I wanted to mention a huge thank you. You guys have just blown us away with the support that you've thrown behind us. We are just getting flooded with orders for our blends. In fact, so much so that we've had to order a whole nother 4 batches of 4 different lines to be remade fresh for you guys, because you just sold us, you had a sell out of so many products. So I'm a little bit lost for words, because it's very meaningful to Jordan and I, and we're so grateful that you've thrown your support behind us, and you put your trust in us to try our beautiful blends, and you won't regret it. They will help you feel amazing. They're going to be delicious, and it's going to help you just feel like you have more control over the amount of nutrition that your family are eating too, and that is just worth its weight in gold. I run a coaching program for parents, and the amount of people who tell me that they feel this like guilt around what their kids do or don't eat, it's not a helpful feeling, but I know that it's there for a lot of people. So although I could talk forever about how we don't need to feel those feelings, I'm also glad that so many people can, alleviate those feelings somewhat through these beautiful blends that their family get in. So thank you again for all the orders flowing through, and the evening before it ends is always huge. So please do allow us some extra time to get through the huge amount of orders that have come through. Usually we send out same to next day. But it's not going to be the case this time. We might just have up to a week delay before we can get everyone's orders out. And if you've ordered those granolas or the gut loving blends that have sold out, we have to make a fresh batch. That might just be a little bit longer. So thank you for understanding. Hello, Misha. Nice to see you. Okay, let's get in. I'm going to send Jordan's working in the other room on international shipping, because we've got a couple of Americans in here, we've got someone from New Zealand wanting to order, and I'm going to be cheeky and ask him to bring me a drink, because I've just realized I'm losing my voice. Can you please bring me a drink? Okay. Done. All right, you guys, thank you for bearing with me. We're going to get into these questions. There are some fantastic ones. The first one is from Shirley. Sorry, not Shirley, Joe Shirley. First name's Joe. She said, is it possible to get enough fiber in if you don't eat veggies? I know that veggies are the healthiest way to get fiber. I was a fussy toddler and never really grew out of it. Oh, Joe, you actually asked this during the pre-party, even before the fiber challenge started. So I know that you've probably gained some extra awareness around, some of the things I'm going to be sharing today. But what I want to do first is I want to visit the topic of the fact that you are missing out, girl. Veggies are not something that we have to eat. Veggies are something that we get to eat. Hello, Roma. Nice to see you too. And I just want to promise you, Joe, that any effort that you put into eating veggies is going to repay you 1,000-fold. And if you can find a way to make it palatable to get those veggies in, I will just be so happy. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a mini coaching session here before we move on to the next questions. Number one, I'll get to some self-love in just a minute, but number one is the first step to getting some more veggies in as an adult would be to fool yourself. And number two, I'm going to talk about ways to actually start knowingly accepting those veggies. But the first one, just to start getting them in without delay, is there's quite a few ways that you can fool yourself to get more veggies in. Now, the first one is obviously, you know that I'm a huge fan of smoothies. My morning smoothie this morning had three serves of veggies and 1 serve of fruit. So you don't have to have a lot of fruit in your smoothie. You can really outweigh it with the veggies. And that does take time. You don't have to go straight to heaps of veggies. But what I'd like you to do, if you're a fruit fan, make your favorite fruit-based smoothie, but then just sneak in one veggie, whether it's a small carrot or a little handful of spinach or something. We're going to teach all about creative ways to get unusual veggies into smoothies shortly in the Smoothie Boot Camp. But smoothies are a great way to fool yourself into not really thinking about the vegetables that you're actually eating. Another great one that I learned through Kirsty's gut program is, instead of potato mash, you can do a cauliflower mash, and it is so delicious. You just steam and blend up cauliflower with like half a stick of butter. And I love the Urban Forager chicken broth paste. You put like a teaspoon of that in. It is the most delicious thing ever. And you're eating cauliflower, which is not really something that much of us get enough in. The sulforaphane that's in cauliflower, especially for women of our age, it's so important for us to be getting that in every single day, those cruciferous veggies. Kale is another one that's in that cruciferous veggie family, which is also very easy to sneak into a smoothie. And the other way is in our in our third video, we talked about fourth video, dinners. You saw me make the Mexican mince. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about mince in an upcoming question. But if you remember, we basically halved the meat in the dish, and we used I always forget the name of this, like a microplane. What is that? Someone please help me out in the comments. It's not a grater. It's it slices things super finely, really fine. And you can use an egg, like a full eggplant, some red lentils, some mushrooms. You can get away with all like packed full of veggies, any minced meal. Thank you, Claire. It's a mandolin. You can get away with so many vegetables in any mince dish, whether it's spaghetti bolognese or nachos or shepherd's pie or whatever it is. Please bulk up the mince with veggies. And I served it for dinner to a family with super fussy kids who don't like veggies. They didn't even detect it. So it doesn't have to be something that is not tolerated by you. Even if you know what's going into it, if you disguise it well enough, you even fool yourself. So that's step number one, is let's just start getting it in, Jo, in whatever way you can. And number two, then we can work on desensitizing yourself to veggies and actually starting to enjoy those veggies on their own and consciously making a decision to eat them. And again, we don't need to rush that step. You can take as long as you like, so long as you're consistently working on it. And I'm going to share with you how to do that now. And it's just the same. If we can train kids to desensitize and start to enjoy veggies, which is something that I do every week within the No Fuss Nourish method. And I actually took on a friend of mine's child. She's 5 with autism, and she was just on this hyper-processed 100% diet. She wasn't having any veggies. It was, a pretty full-on diet with where she was. In the 6 weeks that I had her 2 days a week, she made huge progress. If we can train a child to accept vegetables, we can absolutely train ourselves as adults to like vegetables. And the first step in what I teach families is to build a positive food culture. And that's something that you can do for yourself as well. So just check in with yourself. What does veggies even mean to you? Like, what feelings does that bring up for you? What you want to do is switch it around. Like, if there's something negative for you, like if you're forced to eat veggies as a kid, which is something that I never promote, by the way, you might still be rebelling unconsciously, subconsciously, a few decades later. Like, that is something that can absolutely hang around, this like subconscious feeling that you need to rebel from your parents forcing you to eat vegetables. It's also quite possible that you simply weren't given enough opportunity as a baby or a toddler to play with your food. And so that natural and developmentally appropriate response of food being a bit, being wary of food, just hasn't been turned off for you yet. It's also possible that the cause of your aversion to veggies is that your gut microbiome is out of balance, and those, those pathogenic bacteria that have overpopulated in your gut, they're demanding particular foods that they like, which is often sugars and starchy carbs and white food, and not vegetables. And so if you can start to eat some of those vegetables, it will alter the gut microbiome and you'll start to crave more of those vegetables. That's how it works. It's pretty amazing. And it's even possible that your primal reflexes weren't switched off at that developmentally appropriate phase of life. Those primal reflexes, that's a topic that's probably a bit too much to get into right now, but it is often a cause of fussy eating. And so you can Google primal reflexes. You can have a chiropractor work with you on them or test whether they're switched on and off. It's a really interesting topic to get into. But aside from all that, I just want you to focus on building that positive food culture for yourself. And it's all about caring for yourself. And I've always said that eating nutritious food is the highest form of self-love, or one of the highest forms of self-love, for me anyway. Because say this morning, I woke up, like yesterday, I was actually a bit flat. I was like pretty exhausted. It's been a big 2 weeks running the Fibre Challenge. And I was like, whew, like it's the end of the 2 weeks. And, your body kind of just goes, oh, okay, that's done now. I'm a bit tired. And so this morning, I reached for my smoothie that had the 3 vegetables in it. It had the nuts and the seeds in it. It had a big knob of ginger and cacao. And my gosh, like I feel like a different person. And I'm not just saying that, I'm not exaggerating. That's the impact that it can have on you, eating these foods that are fantastic for you, that you actually get to choose these foods. It's pretty phenomenal that we even have access to these foods. So this is not a should do, this is a can do, and this is a you get to. And it's kind of almost like stepping into your own, transcending those childhood habits, which there's no shame around carrying childhood habits into adulthood. We all do it in some way or another. Maybe this is something that you've brought in from your childhood that's actually no longer serving you. And you can actually examine that and say, well, actually, no, that is something that I want to let go of. And now I can choose something that's actually going to serve me. It's going to help me feel amazing. And that's what everybody wants. So educate yourself on the power of vegetables, the phytonutrients, the fiber that we've spoken about, the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the sulforaphane, the list just goes on and on and on. And for me, maybe not for everyone, but for me, when I start to learn about what drives me and what powers me, it really gives me greater motivation and greater drive to choose those things. And so take a few minutes, Google the benefits of veggies. You might be surprised. And so these veggies, if you can get into some level of acceptance of having them each day and flooding your body with those nutrients that they will absolutely deliver for you, it's not only going to help you feel fantastic in the here and now, but they are going to protect you. They're going to help protect you from degeneration as you age. They can help protect you from cancer and heart disease and diabetes and Alzheimer's and anxiety and depression and basically any form of chronic disease. Vegetables are one of the biggest heroes that we can possibly embrace in our life. And so having access to veggies is a gift. It's not a I should, it's an I get to. So that's a message that if you can remember anything, just remember that you get to choose this, and you can choose whether you let go of that childhood sensitivities and sensory challenge and retrain yourself. And look, if you want some hand holding with that, I actually have a whole module inside our coaching course that I can give you access to. So please reach out and I can tell you how you can access that. But the last piece of wisdom I want to leave with you about how to do that is through exposures. Every child or every adult that might be fussy too has what we might be able to call like an exposure bucket. And that means that it takes a certain number of exposures to fill up our bucket before we can then start to accept and embrace and even enjoy a food that we haven't before. And those exposures, thankfully, don't always need to be something like a food that, if say it's a carrot, like we don't always have to just munch down on a carrot and swallow it and that's an exposure. Thankfully, we can use any one of our 5 senses. We can touch it, we can explore it, because this is, a developmentally appropriate thing to do as a toddler. in a baby, is to play with our food. And that tells our brain that it's safe. We get to explore that food. So honestly, playing with your food is actually a great thing. Even as an adult, go ahead and play with that food. Mush it through your fingers. Like, grab the peas and play a game with your kids. Like, whatever you can do to, smell it, shake. If it's a shaky food, like, shake it in your ear. Even get up to the point where you can lick the food, and that's a win. Like, and applause yourself for that. Any small exposure is a win. Sometimes you might get to chew the food in your mouth and then you can spit it out. That is still a win, and it's still an exposure that's going to fill up your exposure bucket. So desensitize yourself to just choose one veggie at first. And I can promise you that if you just be consistent, decide to expose yourself to one vegetable. That sounds funny. Decide to have a vegetable exposure every meal of your day within, as long as it's, don't break your back over it. But breakfast, lunch, dinner, just try to have an exposure to a vegetable, whether it's eating it or licking it or tasting it or smelling it or whatever. And I promise you that over time, you will absolutely desensitize to it. But there's more tips for you. So go ahead, and if you want more, Jo, just let me know and I can help you out. Okay. Thank you for those comments, you guys. All right, Nicole, I'll get to your question in just a moment. Oh, and Jo, sorry, your actual question was, how else do I get fiber in without veggies? Real quick, I'm sure that you discovered this during the fiber challenge, since you asked the question before the fiber challenge actually began. But think chia seeds, think nuts, think whole grains, think other seeds, think brown rice, think regular spices like cinnamon. Cinnamon is loaded with fiber. You can put that in your yogurt or whatever you like. Put, I think it's 1.5 teaspoons a day of cinnamon has a significant positive effect on our blood sugar regulation too, which is is fantastic for our insulin response, avoiding diabetes. Like, it's awesome stuff. And fruit too. You might be a fruit fan. So there's lots of fiber in all these. Basically, any whole food is going to give you fiber. So just go for gold. Oh, is that you, Jo, that said I'm very consistent and I do veggies at all meals now? Just changing habits is easier than you think, or harder than you think, probably maybe what you meant, or maybe easier than you think. If that's you, Jo, I'm stoked to hear that. Okay, Claire. All right. Claire was asking about the process of making nuts and seeds activated. She said, how long do you soak them for? And with the drying on sunny days, can I dry them in the sunlight? And if I decide to pop them in the oven with something else I'm cooking at a higher temperature, is that okay? Or does it reduce the nutrients? Great questions, Claire. Okay, so you're going to find some, and I did comment a little typing beneath your question, but just to help everyone else as well, there are some instructions for activation inside the ebook that you're going to get this evening. But as a general rule, nuts and seeds and whole grains typically will have, various ideal soaking times, but we don't need to be too fussy about it, really. As a general rule, you can just put your, let's call it a nut, say almonds. You can just put your almonds in a bowl of water in the morning, and then in the evening, you can just drain it off and dry them overnight. Or you can do it the opposite way. You can do it just before bed, and then in the morning, you can rinse them and dry them off. The only exception to that I would say is the high-fat nuts, like cashews or macadamias. 2 hours is enough for them. If you soak for longer than that, you're going to risk damaging those beautiful omega-3s and the good fats, that are in them. So that would be my only tip. But remember, when you're activating nuts and seeds or whole grains or anything, you want to put salt or something acidic like lemon juice or the whey in your yogurt, or a little bit of probiotic juice from your kefir or your sauerkraut or something. I find salt or lemon juice is just an easy go-to. Just a little bit teaspoon in there, and that is actually going to help activate those enzymes that will break away those phytic acids and lectins and all the rest of it. Now, when it comes to drying, yes, you're right. You absolutely can dry them in the sunshine. So long as it's hygienic, make sure it's not a place with lots of flies or dogs or anything like that. Just be sensible with it. Sunshine is okay. That's what they used to do in cultures that did this forever. The way that I do it generally is in the oven, just on the lowest temperature possible for as long as it takes to dry them. Just eat one and check. It's important that they are dried thoroughly, otherwise they can get a bit moldy, and we don't want that. If you have a dehydrator, that's even better. Now, also, I just want to say here that when I interviewed Kirsty the other day for the first Q&A, she explained that it's not like if you are digesting your food really well, if your gut function is optimal, if you don't have any particular health concerns like an autoimmune disease, if you are just thriving and rocking along really well, you can do without activating your nuts and seeds. You don't have to. If you are compromised with even anxiety, depression, all of that's related to the gut, any autoimmune condition, any gut dysbiosis, all that stuff, then yes, it's much better to activate your nuts and seeds because it's going to be very difficult to digest them and then take out those nutrients if you're already compromised. But if, like I said, if you're rocking along, then awesome. You don't even need to bother. All right. Just checking. I'm still not sure if that was Joe. Joe, is this you, this question? Because I'd be stoked if you're here. Okay, Belinda asked the next one. She said, I noticed that you don't use the almond skin. This was when we made the quiche in the lunch video. And she said, is there a particular reason for that? Quick answer, Belinda, yes. The people that Kirsty works with, and that was one of Kirsty's recipes with the diversity dough quiche. She works with people predominantly who are experiencing some gut imbalances and, need to work on healing and sealing their gut. And the almond skin can be difficult for digestion at that stage. So if your gut's fine, go ahead and use the regular almond meal that has the skin on it. It's better nutrition, more fiber. So go ahead and use it. But it's really just if you're on a gut healing program that you need to avoid those. Okay, Nicole, who I see is here. 1 second, I need a drink. I've been doing a lot of Q&As in this last week in our coaching membership and in the Fibre challenge and in a guest podcast. So my voice is just like not wanting to cooperate today. Okay, Nicole said, is green banana resistant starch the same as green banana flour? Great question. It's one that we get every time. I really should start putting it in the notes. It's not the same. So green banana flour and green banana resistant starch basically just come from two different varieties of banana. That's really it. So when it comes to green banana baking flour, that is from basically just green bananas, like Cavendish, regular Cavendish bananas, but that are green. When they're green, they have ridiculous amounts of nutrients in there and less sugar. And what they found, Rob and Krista, who you've heard me talk about up north on their banana farm, they had so much wastage of these green bananas that they kind of just dumped them out the back. And they saw that all the kangaroos and the natural wildlife would come and they would feast on these beautiful green bananas. And it got them thinking about maybe there's something to these green bananas. And they had them tested and all sorts. And yes, green bananas are amazing for us, right? And so they developed this technology where they could basically, it's called a Nutrilock technology that locks in sort of 20 to 50 times the nutrients of regular food processing techniques. And so it is basically a baking flour that is high in nutrients. And so even though it's made from a banana, it's just like the starch, it's a baking flour and not really used as a supplement or a supplementation for diet. The green banana resistant starch is made from ladyfinger bananas, and it is a supplement. You don't really want to bake with it. It's not going to taste good to start with. And secondly, it's not going to deliver the same effect. So basically, let me just check. If you want to make, let me go back to the green banana baking flour. If you want to make like a self-raising flour out of it, you add 2 to 3 teaspoons of baking soda or baking powder to it per cup, and it's going to help it rise. If you're looking at swapping out your flour, I wouldn't do it straight away whole hog. I would basically just swap out maybe a quarter of the regular flour or half of the regular flour for the green banana flour, and then just work up from there. They advise let me just check here, 2/3 of a cup of green banana flour for regular flour, and that's the swap out ratio that you can use. So when it comes to green banana resistant starch, I feel like we did kind of cover the benefits of it in the video. I'm not going to kind of go over it again, but basically they recommend 3 scoops. It comes with a little scoop. I can only handle 1 scoop in my smoothie before the taste really starts to take over. I've known other people who can do 2 scoops, but for me, it's just 1. So I do 1 scoop in my smoothie, and then you can do another scoop in your yogurt or a couple just in a drink and just swig it down. It's up to you. But they are different. They're made from different bananas, and the process of extracting the nutrients is different. One's a supplement and one is a flour. And you do not want to use the supplement as a baking flour because it would taste disgusting. Okay, I hope that helps. Okay, the next question. Oh, it's from Nicole again. Hey, Nicole, you're on fire. Okay, she's got 3 quick questions. The first one is, where can I buy green banana resistant starch? The place where you can buy it is called Natural Evolution. They do sell, we used to sell it, and I think the video might have been a bit confusing. We need to update the videos. We don't sell it anymore. But there are, if you Google it online, there's a bunch of options. But Krista usually gives us a discount code to share with you guys to order with them. I followed up this morning with her, so I'm sure she'll reply with a code that we can use, and I'll send it to you. Number 2, you said, oh, okay, I like this question. You said, is grass-fed beef still a good choice, or would you recommend organic? All right. I have a video that I took from Woolies when I was shopping that I wanted to be able to share with you, but I couldn't get it to load up to this streaming software. So I'm just going to tell you. Of course, organic's always going to be best. However, organic meat can be very expensive. And I just don't think it's sustainable for the average family to buy organic everything. So grass-fed is a great happy medium. But having said that, when I went to Woolies last, I took an opportunity to check the pricing of the 3 different types of beef mince. One was just regular beef mince. That was $9.50 for half a kilo. The grass-fed Woolies beef mince was only 50 cents more. It was $10 for half a kilo. So that's kind of a no-brainer. So yes, grab the grass-fed. The next step up for the Cleavers brand organic beef mince from Woolies was $14 for half a kilo. So, it's $4 more expensive for a half a kilo, which could be make or break for a lot of families. So go for grass-fed. If that's reachable for you, then go for the organic. But here's a tip. I did speak earlier in the Q&A about just the regular routine of bulking out your beef meals with veggies. And the absolute trick to do that is by purchasing a mandolin if you don't already have one. I promise you, it makes so much difference rather than just grating your eggplant or your mushrooms or, whatever you're using, which I do recommend just those 2, eggplant and mushrooms, if you do want to really disguise it. They're the best. But if you just grate it, it's not going to have the same effect. You really need a mandolin. So grab a mandolin from eBay or wherever, marketplace, wherever, and bulk out your beef. So then you can afford to potentially buy the organic beef mince because you're only using half of it. So then it's $7 for the same amount of return that your cheaper $10 for a half a kilo meat would have bought you. Of course, you've got to buy the veggies too. So maybe it equals out. But even if it equals out, that means you're having organic meat and more veggies. So you're having a double win for the same price. So that is my recommendation. I hope that makes sense, Nicole. Your third question is another great one. You're full of good questions. You said, what are your thoughts on the best type of sugar or sugar alternative to use on occasion and why? Okay, here we go. My absolute go-to for a sweetener is date paste. Now, you guys are all registered for the smoothie challenge coming up that starts on the 28th of August. I will teach you how to make date paste. It is dead easy. But the reason I love it is because, number one, it's chock full of fiber. Dates are very high in fiber. They're also very high in lots of minerals that we need, like way more than any sugar alternative or sugar replacement out there. And they're also low GI, surprisingly, because they're very sweet, but they're low GI. So that is my go-to. I use date paste. I actually don't use sweetener in smoothies anymore, but you can use it in smoothies. You can use it in pancakes or cakes or curries or basically anywhere where it's okay to have that little bit of moisture, like bliss balls, anything like that. Muesli bars, fantastic way to use date paste. Because dates have so much fiber, our bodies can handle the fructose component so much better as well. Because without fiber present in your sweetener or in your foods, when we have fructose present, we're going to have this big insulin spike. And that insulin spike, I've been learning more about it lately, is just has a cascade of negative health impacts, which we don't want. So we want to kind of we want to do anything we can to keep our blood sugar stable and to keep that insulin response from doing this all day, every day. So date paste is awesome. If you want a granulated sugar that's dry, then coconut sugar would be my pick. It's less processed. It's more environmentally sustainable. And it does carry some extra minerals with it. It's still, a high fructose option, but that's what I use when I'm making stuff that needs a granulated sugar. If you are reaching for a liquid, then the two options that I go for are either raw honey if it's not being cooked or maple syrup if it is being cooked. The reason that I wouldn't use raw honey in something that's being cooked is just because you lose the benefit of it being raw, because once you heat raw honey past, 40 degrees Celsius, then it just kills all those awesome things that we love to have in our honey that I don't have time to get into. But raw honey is great, or maple syrup. Just make sure the maple syrup, I think everyone here would know not to get the maple flavored syrup from the supermarket. The supermarket do have a good option as well, but just make sure it's 100% maple syrup. Otherwise, it's just sugar flavored water that you're buying, okay? All right, now, for those people who don't want fructose, they want a fructose-free sweetener, the only thing that I suggest is this, a mixture of 100% green stevia powder and 100% monk fruit powder, both organic. That's what I use here at home. I just get the two options. They're readily available online, 100% green whole leaf stevia ground into a powder, and the monk fruit of the same, monk fruit powder dehydrated and crushed into a powder. 50-50 of both. The reason I do that is because I think we've all had that negative experience of too much stevia or too mumuch monk fruit powder. Basically, any of those sugar alternatives kind of have this point where it tips and becomes gross to taste, right? It's very off-putting. Whereas I find if you have a mixture of two brought together, you can have more of it before it starts getting gross. So that's what I do. They're both great options. Please be wary of other sugar alternatives. Number one, I went looking for, what did I do? I saw it the other day at Woolies. That's right. They gave me, in my home delivery order, they gave me monk fruit powder, but it wasn't monk fruit powder. It was 1% monk fruit powder, and the rest was something else altogether that I can't even remember now. I must look it up and share it on socials. It was astounding. On the package, they called it monk fruit powder, and then in tiny writing underneath it, they also said what the 99% was. It's crazy what people can get away with these days with labeling. So make sure it's 100% monk fruit powder. Now, the other sugar alternatives, and there are lots out there, but basically all of them are a no-go. If you're looking after your gut health, if you don't want to have gut imbalances, if you don't want to have gut inflammation, steer clear of them. They're basically made from a lot of extracts. Now, extracts rely heavily on pretty harsh solvents and chemicals to extract what they want out of the original whole food. And they're also quite commonly based on a genetically modified fungus or mold or bacteria. And it's very difficult to know what you're actually buying. And so I steer clear of all those. If you want a fructose-free sugar alternative, go for the green stevia powder and the monk fruit powder combined. That's my best tip. Oh, okay, someone has said here, thoughts on brown rice sugar. Is that low fructose? This has tricked my husband before. Yeah, nice. Okay, so I'm guessing that was a syrup, right? It was a, it looks like honey. Is that what you're talking about? That one, I used to use a lot of that too. And look, it's not the worst. It's not the best. It's not the worst, but it's highly processed. There's not any nutrients in there basically, but it's free of fructose, right? Yeah, okay, you've confirmed that's yes. So yeah, look, I wouldn't use it every day, but occasionally, yeah, that one would be okay too. It's just very highly processed, but an okay option, yeah. Oh, thanks, Amanda. She says, I'm new, but you seem great, sis. That's so nice. Misha has said you can get the green resistant banana flour at Coles or Woolies. Fantastic. Natural Evolution have the highest quality one, and I think they do now sell in Woolies, don't they? So yeah, that's great. Nicole, I'm going to grab another of your questions now. You said, is store-bought kimchi or sauerkraut a suitable form of fermented food? Yeah, it is. Just check the ingredients. Just make sure it's just the vegetable and the starter. There's some great brands out there who do quality product. Absolutely. Okay. Claire, the drying of the nuts, can I do it in a hot oven? Oh, thank you for circling me back to that. I missed that bit of the question. Look, sometimes we roast nuts at a higher temperature, and that does actually deactivate some of that phytic acid. So you can even skip the soaking and go straight for the roasting. But yes, it does remove some of those nutrients. So if you want your nuts to have the most nutrients, then soak and then dry at a very low temperature while you're not cooking other things that need a higher temperature. But if you're more just after really tasty nuts, because we all know that roasted nuts are absolutely delicious, then yeah, you could roast the nuts. I do a bit of both. And Misha said, yeah, the one at Coles and Woolies is Natural Evolution. That's fantastic. All right, we've only got a couple more questions. So the second last one is from Angela. She says, I'm trying to lose abdominal weight. Is it okay to just have a smoothie for breakfast and lunch and still cover all of my nutritional needs? Angela, yes, but with a caveat. Do not load your smoothie up with heaps of fruit if you're having them twice a day particularly. So as you, I'm not sure if you're already a smoothie enthusiast. If you are, then you might be able to do this process a bit quicker. But what you want to do is start with a smoothie that you think is just perfect for your taste buds when it comes to sweetness level. And then just gradually reduce that fruit, take away the date paste sweetener if that's what you're using, and increase more veg. A couple of years ago, if you had told me that I'd be having 3 to 4 different whole serves of vegetables in my smoothie and only like half a banana and no date paste, I would have gone, ew, that sounds gross. But now my taste buds are used to it. Our whole body is amazing, and our taste buds rejuvenate every couple of weeks. We can retrain our gut microbes to crave different foods and not need such sweet food. So yes, if you're having 2 smoothies a day, just go heavy on the veg, gradually build up to that. But smoothies can be amazing so long as you're following the formula. I don't know, Angela, if you follow our supercharged smoothie formula, which we are teaching in the smoothie boot camp coming up on the 28th of August, which you're all registered for already. But we'll teach you how to craft the smoothie so it's balanced. You've got your good fats, you've got your protein, you've got everything you need to make that a balanced meal. And quite often I joke a fair bit about how sometimes I think the smoothie is is a meal that's packed with more nutrition than some dinners that we all often kind of have. Like, what was an example the other day? What did we have? Maybe it was pizza. I don't know. It was pizza we made at home even. And then the next night we were just so low on time. We got home late. I had like 5 minutes to make the family dinner and head into bed. And I was just like, that's it. We're just having a green smoothie for dinner. And the kids downed it. They thought it was delicious and fun that we weren't having a sit-down dinner meal for dinner. And I was thinking about it later. I was like, well, if I compare the pizza to the smoothie, the smoothie's way higher in nutrition. And that can, maybe not every dinner's like that, but, quite often our dinners can be less nutritious than a well-crafted smoothie. So yes, do remember to have some savory food, and do remember to chew. So you can add some like cacao nibs or some whole nuts on the top that you can spoon to start with, just to chew, to get that cephalic stage of digestion cranking and started. That cephalic stage is important to get our digestive enzymes started, to be ready to digest the food so we don't bloat, so that we can extract, more nutrients from our food. However, chewing is fantastic to do, and it's important, but it does only represent 30% of that cephalic stage of digestion. I feel like a lot of the time we get so caught up in having to chew our smoothie that we forget that all of our other senses contribute the other 70% of that cephalic stage. So, because I have so many smoothies and I love them so much, even just the process of hearing Jordan make his smoothie before me, and I hear the blender whirring, it makes my digestive enzymes start, like my cephalic stage gets going. And it's just like Pavlov's dogs. If you've ever followed most of us have probably heard that study where, Pavlov's dogs, where he trained them where he would just ring a bell and the dogs would start salivating. That's proof that the cephalic stage of digestion has well and truly started. When we get to hear that, we get that grumbly tummy, we're just really ready for our food. If we're sitting at a restaurant waiting and anticipating for the food that we've just ordered, and we can smell everyone else's food, we can see everyone else's food, our cephalic stage of digestion is well and truly started even before we're chewing. So, bit of a sidetrack there. But that's my answer to your question, Angela. Nicole, good question. Take a photo of it for me and post it in the group. I'm happy to do a bit of a product review for you. And Claire, she says, sweet potato. This is in the live chat, sorry, for anyone that's listening and not watching. Claire says, sweet potato. You steam it and cool it for higher fiber. But does the benefit remain when you reheat it? Great question. The type of transformation that happens when we cook and then cool sweet potato or rice, for example, is that it turns into a certain type of fiber, I guess, called resistant starch, right? So with that resistant starch, it can handle some gentle reheating is the short answer to that question. But you wouldn't go putting it in the microwave. You wouldn't go frying it at some really high heat. Let's just take the rice, for example. We mentioned this in the live Q&A with Kirsty. For anyone that's listening, sorry that I'm repeating it, but I know that it was a long Q&A and people didn't need to listen to the whole thing. But if you've made, this is what I do each week. I make a big batch of rice. It can be brown rice or white rice. We love the brown stuff. So I make a big batch of brown. It's like a whole kilo bag for our family. We've got a big family. And we keep it in the fridge. Turns into a resistant starch. And then as we are ready to eat the rice, which is typically with like a warm meal, right? So you just put the rice in your bowl and you pour the hot meal over the top, and it does kind of just warm up the rice enough. But if that's not very appealing for you, then yes, you can gently reheat it on a fry pan. Just make it a low heat and that would be great. All right, the last question, you guys, it's from Belinda. She said, thanks so much for the info. I was wondering if using tinned beans or legumes, if you should rinse them first. I've heard the chickpea juice, aquafaba, is a keeper. What about the others, say bean mix or black beans, etc.? Okay, so yeah, with the aquafaba, my sister's vegan and she loves to keep the aquafaba, which is that liquid from a chickpea can. And that's because it's a fantastic egg replacement. So if you don't eat eggs, then you can whip up the aquafaba and it acts as an egg. You can put it in cakes or whatever you're making. And so aquafaba for someone who's not having egg is a great and handy thing to keep hold of. And it does have some protein in it, but it's not nutrient dense. It's not something that, I would think to keep for the sake of nutrients. So you can rinse it and you can say goodbye to it and not feel like you're wasting something that's super nutrient dense. It does have some starch in there, possibly some vegetable gum, but yeah, you don't need it. You can just rinse it and throw it away. But if you're vegan, you might like to keep it and use it. Now, when it comes to other things like beans, actually, I brought some cans with me. Hang on. Now, it depends on your preference. It depends on what you're using it for, and it depends on the brand of beans that you have. So, for example, first I'll talk about the recipe. So, if you are using the liquid from the can, like let's say these black beans and I'm making Mexican, I just tip the whole thing into my fry pan. What we're going to find is that the recipe will change texture. The liquid's quite starchy from the beans. So it's going to potentially, if you want a thicker soup, for example, then yeah, pour the whole thing in. Or if you're making a guacamole and you want it to sort of hold together better, then you could use it then too. But typically I do rinse them. I find that it tastes better and the texture is better for most of the recipes that I make. So this brand is Absolute Organic from, I believe, I don't know where I got these from actually. No, it wasn't the supermarket. Anyway, the ingredients of this is just organic red kidney beans and water. However, this one, Edgel from a supermarket, has lentils, water, salt, tomato paste, 509, and ascorbic acid. So look, it depends on the brand you're buying, what's in it, whether you feel that's beneficial for you or not. Typically, I just rinse them all. I hope that answers your question. That's all the questions that I have today. Let me go through the live chat here and see if I've missed any. So many people answered my question about the mandolin. Thank you. I don't know why I have like this blockage about remembering what it is called. Okay. I think we answered all the questions. So unless anyone has any others, you can pop in the live chat now, then we're done. But you guys, I always, every time, I love running the Fibre Challenge. It's always a lot of fun. It's always so great to see the changes that people make and the motivation and the new drive and the inspiration that people tend to feel after being immersed in an experience like this. And again, I just want to say thank you for your support. We have orders coming out of our ears, you guys. We've had to order more batches to be made of the blends, and please be patient with us as we get them out because there's a lot to get through. Thank you. And on Thursday, no, let me go through. Tonight, I'm going to send you the ebook. The ebook has basically a summary of the Fibre Challenge, the main points from the videos, as well as some challenges and all the recipes. So that's going to be there for you. It's very robust. It's a big one. Then tomorrow, I'm going to send you an offer from Kirsty. Kirsty has some goodies for you. She's got an offer on the diversity dough and the kefir. And on Thursday, she's coming in to do the rest of the questions that she didn't get to the other day. She had a lot of questions, didn't have time to get through them all. So she'll finish answering them. And she'll also share information with anyone who wants to progress their gut health with her. There's some programs that she'll have on offer for you as well. So if you're interested in that, come along to her Thursday Q&A, but we'll of course send the replay around. And I know that some people have been asking where to buy that green banana resistant starch. And I think Krista the farmer will come through with a savings code for you, which I can send out hopefully tomorrow. And that's it until the smoothie challenge on the 28th of August. So there's lots happening. And I also know that a lot of you who were in our community before this started, a lot of you are waiting on that low cadmium cacao powder as well. I'm waiting on just a couple of answers to my questions from the supplier before I can sort of finish off the package to give to you guys. But she went traveling. So she's only just come back, and I did bump up the email, but I haven't heard back yet. So that'll come in good time. Okay, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.